competition, this presidential panel, but obviously there's no competition because everybody's here, I see, right? Yeah, we certainly, why? Because we have the exciting topic, right? So apparently I'm not, okay. So discussion is about AI, right? Growth of AI. I mean, as you know, AI is only about growth, almost nothing else in the last 2-3 years. 2.5 years. Actually, right now, it's exactly 3 years from the moment when Microsoft got internally GPT-4. It was in late August 22. Right, and then it was released for public in March 23, right? So exactly 3 years when Microsoft saw for the first time GPT-4, which made such a big difference, right? So only 3 years, right? Nothing. And now, just yesterday, we had a couple of discussions, right? So now, just these days, right? I'm using tools which are how old? Less than a month, right? Because tools which are older than 1 month are so obsolete that they're useless, right? So this is how the life looks like now, right? And so this panel is really about, well, AI growth. So we have 5 actually, right? Great panelists, which maybe each of you would say few words about yourself, because we didn't manage to talk too much, and it's better if you tell nice words about yourself than me hallucinating, right? It's gonna be nicer if we tell them. Yeah, for sure. If you hallucinate by yourself, yeah. Good. So then, please make one quick round of introductions.
Okay. Thank you, Marko. So talking about anniversaries, I think we should also say, and I want to be the first one. It's the first anniversary from the drug report launch. So that's that. So we have that covered. So my name is Tomasz Snażyk. I'm from Poland. I'm a CEO and founder of AA Chamber, and it's a chamber of commerce for small and medium businesses. We represent, promote, we network, and we give knowledge solely to SMEs from the CE region. So we have members in Bulgaria, Czech Republic, and in Poland.
Aida.
Hi, my name is Aida Kamišalić Latifić. I'm a state secretary at the Ministry of Digital Transformation of Slovenia. Also, I'm an assistant professor at the Faculty of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science at the University of Maribor.
Hi, I'm Harry Theoharis. Unfortunately, I'm a politician. I'm a member of parliament in Greece, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, responsible for economic policy. But I'm a software engineer by training, so this is an interesting topic for me. And I've been head of the tax administration in Greece, Deputy Minister of Finance, Minister of Tourism, in various roles.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Julia. I'm from Google, and I'm leading our government affairs and public policy work in parts of the Central and Eastern European region, including here in Slovenia.
Hajdi.
And good morning, everyone. I'm Hajdi Cenan, and unlike colleagues from the politics who are technical background savvy, I, until recently, and you will find out very soon, was a co-founder and CEO of an AI startup, but without a technical background. But I also used to serve as the vice president of Croatian AI Association. Now I serve also as the president of Croatian Startup Association, so I kind of broadened the thing a little bit.
Great. Thanks for this quick self-introductions, right? We have many questions, possible topics to cover. I'm not sure if we'll be able to cover everything, but let's start the discussion. Maybe Julia. So there are two competitions, right, in the world related to AI. One is geopolitical competitions between well, mostly US and China now. Europe tries to follow up now. We are lagging a little bit behind in Europe, but this is geopolitical level, and then the level of competition between companies, right? Could you tell a little bit from your perspective, since you are covering these public affairs and so on, in particular the geopolitical side of this competition, which is evolving in weird ways, right? I would say. One of the things what I do is we do OECD AI Policy Observatory. So we are observing the way how AI evolves pretty much on a weekly or monthly basis, right? We started doing this like 7 years ago, and Europe was still strong back then, right? Now, after 6-7 years, so India is getting on the map heavily, right? China overtook already in a couple of indicators, US, not everything, but a couple of things, US is standing strong, but yeah, it's not first on every possible spot anymore. So could you describe a little bit from your perspective how you, from the Google side, see this geopolitical thing?
Of course, that's a very complex environment, but before I get into it, I do want to note that it's great to see this discussion happening in a forum like this. I think it shows that the topic of AI is becoming more prominent also on the pro-innovation policy agenda here in Europe, which is not something that we always see. The focus here is ostensibly on supporting innovation and growth, which is, I think, extremely important. In Europe, we tend to look first at the risks, and sometimes the support for innovation or the growth potential is a little bit of an afterthought. So that's a bit of a positive trend. I think generally I will not surprise anyone when I say that at Google we see AI as absolutely transformational. It's a once-in-a-generation opportunity, and we would hope and can only encourage governments, policymakers to look at it the same way. We have been investing into AI heavily for many years. We've been an AI-first company for many years, but I think what is maybe a little bit less known is that we have been using machine learning in how we improve our products for over a decade now. And that's something that everyone has experienced firsthand, including in autocorrections when you type into Google search for a long time and may not have been aware. I think when we look at the geopolitical level here, as you said, and then it's of course, you're fully right to say it, Europe is not exactly in the top 1 or 2 leading regions on AI at the moment. But I think Europe does have great fundamentals to build on, and the opportunity to leverage AI for its own growth and long-term competitiveness and to get back into the leading spot, I think is great, and it's there up for grabs, so to say. But it's something that needs a very clear focus. And I'm not sure, and then I would also love to hear others' opinions on this, whether that opportunity is fully understood across the whole of the EU bloc and at the Brussels level. We, on our side, have been investing heavily across all different levers that I think are important to be able to leverage AI here in Europe, whether that's through significant infrastructure investments here in Europe, investments into small and medium-sized businesses, which are really the backbone of most of Central and Eastern European countries and helping them transform their business with the help of AI, investing into skills, be it workers or individuals across the economy, working with universities. So across all of these fronts, that's something that we have been investing into a lot. But we have also invested a lot of time into working with governments and helping them see this opportunity. And I should also say that while we're very happy to sign on to the AI Act Code of Practice recently, we have also been quite transparent in pointing to some of our concerns with how AI regulation in Europe has been developing, and our concerns that it may slow down the development and deployment of AI here. We've seen it with our
this topic, a lot in the follow-up questions. How we perceive this slow down or not slow down. I expected you will sign this. You had no alternative, to be honest, right?
Well, not all companies have signed it, but we were, of course, proud to do it.
Okay, then maybe for Harry, kind of more like follow-up, right? So you are more like approaching from the government side. You're a software engineer, you understand the stuff. You probably are present on many bodies discussions, right? So if you could name one thing where you would see where Europe is strong and underusing whatever that feature, right? And what would be this one thing which would need to be done to maybe turn the trend of slowing down? Do you see this from your perspective, which is probably fairly unique, right?
This is the most difficult question. The most difficult question for a politician to compress everything
be alone.
into one.
Nobody's listening.
Into one thing, to compress everything into one thing. I mean, we tend to have 3, 5, 7 proposals.
Yeah. I mean,
but I think the biggest fundamental, as you Julia mentioned, would be the people in Europe. I think we have a lot of people working in AI, not necessarily in Europe. To give you an example, Greece has a lot of scientists and engineers producing papers in AI. I think about 11% of the global production. But of course, they're in the US, in Asia, working everywhere. So I think we need to work on those fundamentals and see how we can leverage them, perhaps consolidate and use them in the best possible way. And in terms of what we could be doing to foster more innovation, there is innovation. I mean, just Greece, a small country, has 188 AI startups. So it's a very hot field and a very hot topic that's changing a lot, as you mentioned. I think we're still talking about ChatGPT, which is generative, but the agentic revolution is really just starting, and we'll see huge disruptions in the labor environment, etc., etc. So this is a field that needs to be supported. And I think the number one I would choose is, oddly enough, in the world of finance. I think Europe has a disadvantage because we don't have adequate funding, the capital markets integration, what we now renamed into Savings and Investments Union. You mentioned the Draghi report. I think that kind of reforms, those kind of reforms, are the reforms that will allow the ideas that are already within the European environment to be able to be funded as well, and to create viable products. And I think that's currently lacking. If you look at the capital markets in the US, of course, there's no comparison. And I think that's a big advantage that US companies have. If you look at the European economy as a whole, we're much more competitive than the US. The whole trades fracas and changes is about how Europe is much more competitive vis-a-vis the US. That's why we're exporting more to them that they're exporting to us. There's only one area that we're lagging, and that's the digital area. That's the the forefront of technology and especially AI. So this is where we should be focusing. This is the gap that we need to close with the US. And if I close this remark with turning back into the geopolitical side, we're living the time of the big bifurcation. I think AI is one aspect of this war between the two worlds of symbolically China and the US. Of course, it could be BRICS, whatever. We just had summits in China recently, et cetera, et cetera. So we see this bifurcation, and AI is going to be an example of that. Last week or 10 days ago, Croatia presented the AI toolkit of the US companies and how, how other companies can take advantage of that. So this is basically part of this war. And I think Europe is in a unique position if we develop our AI capabilities to actually, break this mentality that there are two worlds and you have to choose between those two worlds.
Yeah, we are good on the academic side, but then the investment is compared to like US and China crazy low, and we are missing big tech, right? This is, I don't know, we have a couple of big companies, right? Maybe 10, 20, and none of it it's in core AI, right? So this is one big trouble we have, right? But Aida now kind of following now this discussion towards, so Julia said, well, AI is transformational, we know it is, right? So now transformational times require transformational policy as well, right? Or dealing with policies in new ways as well, right? Because old-fashioned way of doing things means, okay, we identify an idea, right? And then we make a committee and it fails and we repeat this 3 times and then government fails and repeats for the next government. Maybe we come to some legislation, if at all, right? And then eventually down the line, when we are too late, then we get a law which does maybe something, yes or no. Now I'm a little bit too realistic, right? I was just describing what's happening. It was a joke. Although it's not far away from truth. So now the question is, how now from Slovenian side? So you are the decision maker, right? So this big, strong state secretary, right, which can move things, right? So where's this transformational aspect and where are possible gaps, right?
Yeah, thank you for this strong and big. Hopefully, yeah, I would like to think that I have managed to move things into the right direction. Yeah, in Slovenia, definitely, our government is committed, or let's say top priorities, AI and digital transformation. So basically, we can talk about 2 pillars in our case, focusing on 2 pillars. So smart regulation and on the other side, the strong infrastructure. So when I talk about smart regulation, AI Act, implementation of AI Act. In August, the government adopted the implementation, national law implementing AI Act. So hopefully within 2, maximum 3 months, we will have adopted this law. Of course, pointing the competent authorities, among other things. Also, we are provisioning here AI ethics commissioner, for example. But what I find the most important from my aspect is implementation or establishing regulatory sandboxes. So this mechanism, I find, if it's correctly implemented, could be the one that will boost the competitiveness, that will boost innovation in Europe. Well, I'm saying now from the Slovenian perspective, but if all the countries would follow this, and do this, I think we could be on a good path here. Of course, especially establishing AI regulatory sandboxes in these sectors that are really strongly regulated and where this process is slow, to adopt AI services, AI solutions. So we are working hard on this part already, even though the law is still not adopted and it's not in. But we are working on, together with the competent authority, with other countries that already piloted some kind of AI regulatory sandboxes to see good practices, to see what we can do and how best we could establish this mechanism. So this is one side. The other side, and of course, for us, this balance between regulation and innovation incentive is the most important. So we are trying to balance this and to find the correct way to do it. So not to, keep behind because of the regulation, to stay behind all this wave, of innovation. So this is really important. And when I mentioned strong infrastructure, well, we cannot go around that Slovenia is now investing in a new HPC supercomputer. It is a heavy investment for Slovenia, everything together with supercomputer and AI factory that we will establish is the investment of around 150 million euros. So with this is again the commitment, showing the commitment of this government to boost this area, and of course to offer the capacity for. Because we already had one supercomputer, but it was built essentially for researchers, for academia purposes. This one is, now we are making a shift towards SMEs, towards startups, so to have privileged access to computational power, And AI Factory, which gather. This is, again, something that I must say, I'm proud of. Even though Slovenia is a small country, we have a lot of experts, researchers, as you mentioned, really good professionals in the field of AI. But I can say, and a lot of times I say, because I come from this academia, I can say also this, that we are used to work separately. We are competing between us, and now it was the moment that Slovenian government had to do let's say, measures, that do the activities, that we would gather all our knowledge and that everyone will step forward and say, okay, I'm leaving my ego behind, I will collaborate with everyone working in this field, and this is tough, and I guess you understand me and everyone who is working in this, it's tough sometimes, but we somehow manage also with AI Factory, to gather all the most important institutions in Slovenia to join. Now we are in the process of establishing competence center for artificial intelligence. Hopefully within a month or two we will have it. Again, gathering not just academia institutions, but also a part of the economy or industry, our industry bringing in. And not to forget that we are also investing through the European Digital Innovation Hubs, which are there to support, again, small, medium companies, startups, in this process. So I think with all this, we are building, hopefully, strong ecosystem that will be able to cope with everything that is coming on.
So most of the mechanisms which you described were very much top down, right? So what I would do as a radical move, right, and probably it would pay off pretty quickly, I would just spray youngsters with the money, and chunks of, I don't know, 30, 50K, right? And if only one
this is coming. This is the one that is preparing. So hopefully there are colleagues from the ministry there, but hopefully next year we will have Aris as an agency will do this for us, spraying the money. Yeah. But in the sense 50 or 100, up to 100K, for these, for the startup small companies, to say, okay, this is the idea we have here. go for it, you know,
Yeah.
and to start.
Because it's a big uptake I see in, between youngsters now with this new AI wave, more than it used to be, right? And now since we touched SMEs, right, Hajdi, so this is good example, right? So as Hajdi mentioned, right, so she's founder of AI startup in Croatia, right? On the topic which we touched before as in the area of agents, right? Could you tell a little bit about this story, how you decided, right, for these agents? I don't know, 2 years ago, there were hardly any discussion on that. A year ago, there were people said, okay, the next year will be year of agents, right? And now we are in this year of agents, right? So, and seems like it's really exploding, right, in many ways. So could you tell in a few sentences your story of this decision? How is the market? Do you need to fight for customers, or are customers fighting for you? Can you tell a little bit this experience?
So as Marko said, we are working with AI agents, and it was more on the infrastructure side of actually being able to build AI agents or creating frameworks to do it. And yeah, feels like we started doing it before it was cool, as they say, because we kind of looked into it at the end of 2023. And I think it was August 2023 when the concept of AI agents first came out from academia, so from research. And because, as I said, I don't have technical background, but my other co-founder is a tech whiz guy, so he really is into that, and he's always looking into what is coming out of research and what shows the most promise, and he really got interested in AI agents. And by stroke of luck, at the end of 2023, it was December, we got invited to a conference in, believe it or not, China, to completely unrelated regarding one of our tools that was open source that we developed that got selected into top 100 open source tools in the world. So there we met with the people from Microsoft Research who were working on AutoGen, which is their framework for building AI agents, and bit by bit we started really getting deep into it. Fast forward almost 2 years. Brutal honesty, we are not a European company anymore. We got acqui-hired by a US startup who is in the same domain. And the reason is very prosaic, and it was mentioned already, and it's access to financing. Because especially when you're building something that is on that infrastructure level, so that is not giving you revenue right away, it is very, very difficult to get financing in Europe. So there is an adage going on in the startup world that, you know, US VCs, so venture capital funds, invest in startups to become successful. European VCs invest in startups when they're successful. So yeah, for us, because we didn't have revenue from that business, even getting like 500K euros was mission impossible. That other startup, so with pretty much, not even pre-revenue, but they were almost pre-product and pre-team. They didn't even have a team. They had just like 2 founders who were known in the space. They got $5 million investment on $30 million valuation, which is mission impossible in Europe, I can tell you right away. I mean, okay, every now and then we hear some stories, for example, Mistral, who are building the foundation, one of the foundational models from France. They did get a huge investment, but again, it was mostly from the US investors, so let's not forget that. Yeah, it is a bit frustrating to build something like this from Europe. And it's a fight. You feel like constantly fighting, and it's constant frustration because you see what same level or even lower level startups than ours can get in the US, and which is very difficult here. And then even when you go to the kind of business side and we start selling, it's also much more difficult in Europe because somehow in the US, because there's so much talk in general about AI, even the companies are much more open to trying it out and working with startups to try things out and not build something on their own. In Europe, most big companies are like, no, we got to build an internal capacity, people, we're going to work on it. And then 18 months later, they realize they don't really have the knowledge, they don't really have the skills, because they don't really necessarily have the people, because good quality talent usually goes into something either a little bit risky, but where they have the freedom of building things that they want, or they work for large companies where they can get salaries that normally you don't get. And medium-sized, okay, maybe larger companies, but enterprises, but they're not necessarily technological. So again, like I said, from a perspective of small and medium enterprises, small business, and the startup, it's frustrating on many levels. So one is access to financing, one is the go-to-market, because in Europe, we talk all the time about European Union, but it's not a single market. It's not one single market. It's very difficult. It's very fragmented. Okay, maybe that will slowly change now, because with the new EU Commissioner for Startups, Mrs. Zaharieva, she's really pushing things such as the notion of the 28 regime, or EU Inc., how you want to call it, which would be a business entity that's the same across all the European Union countries, which would make it so much easier for startups, not to have to fight different regulation of each country. But that is still something that is coming, and we'll see how it's going to pan out. Then we mentioned the regulation. That is also something that is very scary from the perspective of small businesses, because the biggest unknown is not even the AI Act per se, because you see, we've seen it, we've read it, we know, but it's the actual implementation of AI Act. Because there will be freedom, so to say, for each of the nations to choose how they're going to implement it, which agency is going to implement it. And there is so much uncertainty in that, at least from Croatia, I know, but I also know in many other countries, because we have no idea who's going to be the body, who's going to implement it. Will they be competent? Will they have people who have the background enough to understand the projects that they're supposed to be evaluating on the risk level, and so what level of regulation should be implemented on which project? And the notion of the burden of regulation, of the implementation of it, the possible fines, which it's a scary notion. So I know a lot of AI startups in Croatia.
It's only 30 million, right? I mean, you can afford this, right?
In general, when you think about it, yeah, it's a scary notion, and I know a lot of them are thinking of, again, where we're going to go to the US. Because, we don't want to be a European company because there is so much uncertainty in this as well. And it's really stifling. All these little things, add up. And that's also the reason that stifling innovation in Croatia in Europe, because we don't have the sense of security that we are able to do something and try something out without being slapped, on the wrist, that we've immediately done something bad. Now, don't get me wrong, with the regulation, I understand the intent behind it, and we do need some regulation, otherwise it can go really haywire. But unfortunately, it always comes down to that implementation part. So, we've seen it with GDPR. It was so messy and complex and everything. And I'm a bit afraid that AI Act is going to be following a little bit the same path. So yes, startups and businesses in Europe we do feel like we have it much harder. So, I'm not saying it's all peaches and cream in the US or in the other parts of the world. The competition in the US is brutal. And even this startup that we're with now, I'm not sure if they're going to survive, because the competition there is huge. There are much bigger players with much bigger investments. But at least they got, the starting point was here, and ours is here. So it's kind of easier for them to at least try something. Yeah,
very familiar experience. And all the points which you mentioned. Yeah, but now let's touch another topic, right? And going to Tomasz. So talent, right? AI without talent, it's basically nothing, right? You need talent, maybe not massive or even, right? But the way how I see, right? AI is very, very similar to, like, I don't know, soccer or some kind of team sport where you have suddenly sportsmen. So you need strong, small teams, right? Which can be can really make a change. But what I wanted to ask, so I was a couple of times in Poland now in the last years, and I was pretty amazed with the amount of R&D labs which you have, right? Filled with Polish talents. I mean, literally thousands of people, right? Google, Microsoft, IBM, SAP. Intel, I'm sure I forgot some, right? Plus, I don't know, you have cyber defense, cyber offense, 6,000 people, if I understood right, the head of the military side, right? I don't even know for civil side. So these are huge numbers, right, of talent, right? And as I understood, also fairly flexible in terms of salaries and so on. So, I mean, this is a little bit unusual way, in a positive way, how to operate with this talent. And as a consequence, down the line, I would see that eventually Poland will benefit a lot out of this due to know-how, experience, because lots of this R&D, even in Google, right, and so on, is happening in Poland itself, right? So how do you see this growth, right? My impression is that this must have pretty positive consequences, right, eventually.
So I'm not going to comment the sport, the sports team, because we always, are beaten by the Croatian team. So
you lost. No, you won Slovenia.
I know, but it's once in a lifetime, and I'm not going to brag about that.
It was the second time already,
So anyway, okay. So let's keep sports out of the picture. So regarding the whole ecosystem, so I would say there are a few key drivers of this nuanced picture, because what Hajdi said, it's also everywhere, right? It's not something that it's only for Croatia. It's also for Poland and other CE countries. So I would say the first thing is the mindset. The mindset is that the AI, digital affairs, I would say, are agnostic in the political way. So even though there's a change of the government or change within the government, there's the North Star where we want to go. I mean, there are people that they see things in other colors, but the mindset is that we want to actually drive the country towards getting more unicorns, more people building scale-ups and more funding. So I would say, rather than simply imitating Western models, we are leveraging our unique strengths. As you said, the pool talent. That's the one thing. The other thing is making mistakes. We do mistakes as an ecosystem. Our governments do also mistakes regarding the funding part as well. The presence of Google, of Microsoft, of other and R&D centers, the government and other centers are, I would say, the fly fleet of what is going on. And sometimes actually they do have the snowball effect. So, for example, ex-colleagues of Julia, they established 11 labs. So that is also why You need the presence of those companies because they attract talent, and in most cases, the talent, they come back to the workforce and they establish companies. So last but not least, we did a survey as the AA Chamber within 11 CE countries. So we surveyed more than 3,200 companies. We surveyed also Slovenia, more than 300 companies. And just to say, yes, Poland is actually getting the best, in this picture. It's a nuanced picture. We need to see that this is a very nuanced picture. But our SMEs, they are very pragmatic in using the AI tools, especially in the data analysis, automatic translation, and task automation. So I would say that it's a conglomerate of aspects that we want to use. And as Julia said, we're like once in a lifetime in this opportunity where we can actually use it or not. And also Poland as being, I would say the biggest country. We also want to, spread the word. We want to be, I would say the player that actually plays along with other countries. So that's why Poland had the same file with the Baltic countries for the big gigafactory to not to do it, alone, and to basically to do it together. So I would say a lot of factors, Polish way of doing things with a lot of errors, and trying to be, as politically agnostic as possible.
And the diaspora also helps, I guess.
I'm sorry?
The diaspora. So your people abroad, you have millions of people abroad.
Yes. I mean, I would say yes. Probably that's a big factor. There are nations, as we know, that they're better in doing that, but for sure, like the Greece community. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's also a notion. And there's a lot of people coming back to Poland after wars and communism, etc. So a lot of tax reliefs for them as well.
Yeah. Great, thanks. Okay, let's go back to Julia, right? So you work in this in Google on the side of this government policy and public policy and government affairs, right? So like 3 years ago, right? So we had this old normal, right? The usual, the old-fashioned way of doing stuff, right? You had Google for search, you had SAP for that. It was kind of, life was nice, everything was clear, what to do at which moment and so on. And then this AI happened, right? And now we're in this transition period, right? From the old normal towards the new normal, right? Now, since you're closer to Google, right? I mean, in Google, you see how things go, right? So when and what will be the new normal in the government affairs and public policy with the help of AI? So can you estimate when this will stabilize, and in what way the new, this whatever government 2.0 AI supported, how it will look like, right?
Very good question. I would not dare to estimate when, given how fast everything is evolving now. I think we see it with the products and tools that we are using every day. They are changing sometimes completely within a matter of weeks, and getting all new kinds of features and abilities, and are becoming helpful in very different ways on a day-to-day basis. And that's just on a smaller scale. On the grand scale of things, we see that transformation that we've talked about moving incredibly fast. So that's a very difficult thing to estimate. And I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's a process that has a stop, that will be complete. It's something, at least from what we see, that
at least when people will get extinct, then it will be kind of clear, right?
And that I would definitely not put a date on just yet. But in terms of how we see it evolving, or how we would maybe like to see it evolving, and I think what can help. I think one trend that we are seeing very clearly and can only encourage it more, and it also goes to say what Aida has mentioned is a lot of what Slovenia is already doing. It's governments need to lead by example. And that's true across many different levels. We know that AI adoption generally supports efficiency, but it also supports public trust in the technology. And that's absolutely critical for the technology to be widely adopted across different parts of the economy, across different parts of the society, and then in turn is of course important to really tap into the full benefit. So governments themselves adopting AI solutions that are now widely available, going AI first, going cloud first in terms of how they work internally, but also how they provide services to their people is incredibly important, and we see it, of course, approach to this is not exactly even across the EU or across the CEE region, but we see some very good examples of it, and it's something that we can only commend and encourage further. And I think CEE countries specifically have a great opportunity to learn from each other, and I think Slovenia is going and leading by example on this front. It's also about educating its own workforce in the public sector. There are, and Hajdi mentioned it, is incredibly important that there are experts that really understand the technology, how it works, and how different policies or regulations may impact it, because it's a very complex area. But on a wider scale, public administrations tend to be rather large, and it's important that some level, even if it's only a basic level of AI understanding, AI knowledge, understanding of how you can use tools every day to improve the efficiency of your work, is spread across the entire public sector. And for that, that's not something that the government needs to do by itself. Many companies, including ours, offer free of charge AI skills training courses that are specifically designed for use in public sector. There are plenty of freely available tools that do not need to be procured as large as part of large cloud services procurement packages, like Notebook LM, which is an incredibly helpful research tool that anyone can use for their everyday tasks. So I think there are many small things that people in the public administration can very easily do to help transform their everyday work and how they work with their citizens, but it needs to be supported. It needs to be supported at the highest political level. Otherwise, for every public administration, there are many different crises and things to focus on every day, so then it falls by the wayside.
Since you mentioned Notebook LM, right? So a few days ago you released Nano Banana, right? This is a great tool for deepfakes, producing deepfakes. This is also a contribution to the public policy, I guess.
Well, a tool to create content. How?
Yes, this is exactly what I'm saying.
How and what type of content you create, that's of course up to the user. I mean, in all seriousness, we know that deepfakes are a problem. It's one of the risks that we certainly need to address. We are introducing a lot of safeguards on our end. from building safety-first products through different policies that have been actually addressing the risks of deepfakes for a long time now, and it's about enforcement, but also investing into technologies that help either label content as such through our synth ID, which we are expanding to different types of content, not just video and images, but also helping to educate and provide more context for our users. So when they see something on the internet, they know which other contexts this content has maybe appeared in the past. So that's not to diminish the risks. Of course, they are there.
No, I know it's a great tool, but of course you can use it for deepfakes. It's actually one of the best ones. I can recommend. Nano banana, of course, right away. But Harry, right? So I mean, you are almost the same question, right? But from the other side, how would you envision this AI in government in maybe a couple of years, right? So you're a software engineer, you know the full stack, right? You know the processes, technology. So how do you see, like, in maybe a couple of years, your ministry or other ministries to function with AI, right?
Yeah, I mean, the example, just to pick up from where we left, the example of safety first. Safety first is one man's stifling regulation that will limit startups and growth. And from another perspective, of course, it's safeguarding even democracy and with deepfakes. I mean, we know the government-to-government interference is happening, and now everybody has the tools to do that. So I think it's important to strike, of course, the right balance, but of course, we cannot go to either side of the spectrum and expect that we can have positive outcomes. So in my view, and I'm closing this parenthesis, in my view, we should also focus on the outcomes of this transformation. So, for example, supporting workers that might lose their jobs, et cetera, in favor of having less regulation in the growth of AI. And we are all discussing today how we can sort of support or expand and grow this nascent industry, but we must also realize that the benefits for our economies will be realized when we adopt widely AI across the SMEs and stuff. This is where the benefits are coming, not necessarily from one industry, which is the AI industry, which is an important industry, but really the adoption across the spectrum and across the size scale of the different companies is really what will bring the benefits to our respective economies. So we need to look at that side of the equation as well. AI is everywhere already. But it's in small portions.
When do you expect autonomous ministry?
Well, we're discussed recently with a different government, and they mentioned, not necessarily a democratic one, they mentioned that they have an AI agent in the cabinet meetings. The agent takes notes and also talks during the cabinet meeting. So they allow the AI agent, is an extra minister in the ministerial meeting, to actually intervene and summarize and fact check and the discussion that's already happening. So it records the discussion, keeps the minutes of the cabinet meeting, and I think that shows an extreme example of the political process and how it can be changed. But I think I cannot imagine any agency without AI after a few years. I mean, even the small, even the businesses, SMEs in Greece, 80% of them say it's going to help them in the way they work. and more than 20% have started using some form of AI, whatever that is. I mean, in the surveys, it's a bit hazy, the types of answers. But I think the same or even more will happen in government. The pressure to hire people in the public sector is always there. The public sector cadre always pushes for more hires towards the political leadership. And I think AI will, that's a big pressure that AI can alleviate because it will drive efficiency. Now, I'm not sure it drives trust. I'm not sure about that.
People get adapted to this trust, and trust is, to some degree, it's true, right?
Well, there's algorithmic bias. It's not easy to explain because it's top-down. So sorry, it's bottom-up. So it's not easy to explain the results and stuff. So I'm not sure that trust is fostered. I think it's a big part of the policy regulation to ensure that this trust remains with the results of AI innovation. But I think trust is the big name of the game because that's the social capital that we need to safeguard. Of course, there's misplaced trust. I mean, there's people having psychological sessions with an AI agent and being driven to suicide. So we see early examples of
mental health.
Yes, the problems of this trust and what's happening. So we need to work on that. But I believe that there's not a single aspect of our lives that will not be affected. This happens in the way that was described by Hemingway character when he was asked how he was he lost all his money. He said gradually and then suddenly. And this is what's happening now with AI. There's been a lot of gradual change within the Googles of this world and a lot of research happening behind the scenes. And then suddenly came out 2.5 years ago, and life is not
We have only a few more minutes. Let me just quickly jump, if we can just couple of quick answers so that we finish the second round, right? So, Aida, so you're sitting at many of these EU meetings, right? So, could you tell what are frustrations or what kind of sentiment is in these meetings? I mean, also what Hajdi was saying before. We have all these new agencies, small AI offices across countries, lack of competence, and so on. All this frustration and sentiment which you see among your colleagues across Europe.
Yeah, it's great to pick up where Hajdi left. Basically, this uncertainty. You know, you could see, for example, at the AI board, European AI board. I have to be honest. At the beginning, when we started, I thought I was optimistic that we will find one common ground to implement AI Act. And that's why we were supposed to be there. It was my opinion. And then suddenly you could see that countries are pulling each one on the other side, you know. And now you can hear the countries that are saying, stop the clock, you know, about the AI Act,
Poland,
you know.
Right?
And some big countries, some of the big countries, big countries, but also the other bigger countries, Germany,
traditionally,
and other countries that like Slovenia that we think we should implement as soon as possible, but we should find the way to cut the compliance costs, find a way to bring as soon as possible templates, to bring because we still don't have AI standards. So this is something that some countries are saying, okay, we don't have AI standards, we cannot implement it. Not really true, because we can find the way. You know, we can have specifications. We can have our way if we want to, you know, and bring it to the companies, bring it to the startups, SMEs, help desks, everything that we can support, so that the compliance costs, that they are not scared of using the technology, and that they have of course, as I mentioned before, regulatory sandboxes and so on. You know, so unfortunately, I could see this on the EU level. Again, we are not single market, and in that sense, again, I could see different approaches. We opted for the approach where we think the agency, the one agency that has enough skills and knowledge and could build upon this, so to be the main one that will lead this process. But of course, all the approaches of the different member states are different. So unfortunately, yeah, I thought that we would follow different path in the case of AI Act adoption, but unfortunately, I could see this. Because in fragmentation and saying, okay, the industry is not ready. The industry needs time, so we should stop. But we should help the industry get on board. Where we think we could make it together. And not just say, okay, industry needs time, lay back and leave it happening, whatever will happen. And in the sense of trust and all this, we cannot then gain trust on this basis.
Sure. Yeah. This is good to hear. Maybe just to finish the round, right? Hajdi. Okay. Now we heard the perspective from the ministry. Can you explain a little bit the atmosphere on AI in Croatia itself, right? I mean, you are a good example, I guess. Your company, okay, you sold your soul to Americans, as have many others, right? But okay, fine. But is it uptake? Are you generally happy how things go?
On private sector side, yes. On public sector side, no. So we've been talking a little bit before the panel, and you've heard a lot of frustration coming out of me now when it comes to the AI becoming in the focus of the public sector. That's another frustration because, for example, we are only now creating the AI national strategy, which was supposed to be made 5 years ago. You can copy ours. And I heard that we have reached out, but
it's open source. Yeah.
We are revising.
Yeah. You're revising. Yeah. But that's the thing.
This is one prompt,
I kid you not. It will probably be the best what comes out. But okay. On one hand, like I said, okay, it was supposed to be done 5 years ago and should be in revisions now, but okay, COVID did hit in 2020, so I will give our government a little bit of benefit of doubt. And only now, with the latest election, we got the actual ministry who is in charge of digital transformation as well, so there is someone to actually talk to in our government. On the other side, it's a huge portfolio because it's Ministry of Administration, Interior Affairs, and Digital Transformation. So the topic of AI is only now coming into focus. And in the past 2 months, stakeholders from different sectors have been invited to discuss and give their inputs to creating this strategy, but when you hear the representatives of unions again talking about salary coefficients as an input for an AI national strategy, it's kind of difficult to shed the feeling of pessimism of how it's going to pan out. And particularly coming from someone, as I told you, so we are working with AI agents. So we see how these things are developing and how quickly they're evolving and how much more powerful they're becoming every day. The general public might not really see it yet because it's really not in application so much. But the capabilities that are developing every day and the power that can be given, so to say, to these AI agents, the complexities of tasks that can be automated is increasing every day. So I think we should really quickly start thinking more on what also Harry mentioned, the amount of jobs that will not be necessary in the near future. Maybe not in the next year or two, because we tend to overestimate the possibilities, the capabilities of AI in short term, but I think we severely underestimate them in the long term. And when I'm talking long term, it's like 5 years now, because that's already long term, given how things are evolving. So I think everyone, especially, I mean, Croatia, but all nations, all governments really need to step up and wake up and put a lot of pressure on thinking about how the future is going to look.
You see, one maybe serious comment, right? It's not a joke now this time. For a change, yeah. I mean, AI is developing exponentially, right? So you remember the evolution of this last couple of years, and what it had. We are not used to this, right? We didn't have this in the past. And maybe in .com boom, okay, was a little bit of this, but not that fast. This exponential evolution actually allows stepping into the game later, right? And you still can catch up, right? So this is I think one feature which, in principle, is still opportunity for countries which are maybe lagging. You're not lagging behind that heavily compared to the rest of the world. Maybe just, okay, this national
yes,
strategy,
no,
fine.
If I may interject there. Yes and no, because unfortunately, when you look at the population in average, there are still so many people, and we mentioned it as well, who are not using technology at all. And it changes so quickly. And I think we're also going to see a huge gap between those who are trying it out, implementing it, and those who haven't even given a ChatGPT a go. So there has to be a lot of awareness going on in public in general, but also then governments and everything. Like, we have to think about the future that's going to be completely different very soon.
Yeah, you see, if people will lose jobs, at least in Croatia, they will have chance to go to the coast, right? So imagine countries without those.
You are all welcome. Come.
Yeah, now since you mentioned AI Act as the last question, right? So we almost had hopes, when now at the end of Polish presidency, right? When it was this push, to simplify and delay where needed, right? So this was pretty much the rule. So can you explain a little bit this background of this discussion? Because still, if I understand right, it didn't implement in the end, right? Or not yet, but this was very rational thought and possible reaction on this, again, fast exponential evolution of AI, because the way how AI Act was prepared from 2019-20, right, till, I don't know, 2 years ago, when it was pushed and so on, and AI changed a lot in the meantime, even after we got this consensus back then, right? So can you tell us a little bit about this background?
Yeah. So the background, just to be very very quick, is that when did anybody? Thank you for the note. Did anybody read AI Act here?
Most of the people, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. So my question is it spaghetti law or no? Can you understand it? Can you actually? It's not applicable. It's just too complicated. From spaghetti, it should be penne. It should be penne. So a lot of governments, and also probably on the AI board, but it's top secret. But you cannot share it with us. But maybe later on you can tell us something. So the people had this in mind. Okay, let's stop. Let's see where we are, and there's a lot of things going on. There was this the code that Julia mentioned, the AIR standards, the implementation. Poland is at the same stage as you guys are. So it was August 2nd that the AI Act was implemented. and countries are lagging with implementation, with the country implementation of the AI Act. So the push was let's give us, let's give us like a 2-step back, and then let's move forward. But from the, I would say, regulatory and legal reasons, it was not applicable. I mean, the push was also made too late. I would say if it was made probably 6 months earlier, it could happen. It could go through the council, the commission, and the parliament, and then we would have the stop the clock. And now probably we are going to have the omnibus, which will hopefully have the AI Act be revised, and also GDPR that Hajdi mentioned. So that is something that will happen. We as a chamber, we also called for it in the AI action plan for CEE. So this is something that we also mentioned, that this is very very important. So right now we're kind of in waiting for the commission to publish the omnibus and see where we at. If I can comment something, just 2 things regarding the jobs and being trustworthy. So with being trustworthy, that is very for the governments. It is very important in my opinion, because as you know, probably Harry, your employees and the employees of every government are using AI tools on their cell phones, and this is called shadow AI, and this is a very big thing. So it is very important for us as employers and stakeholders, governments, to know who's using what on what kind of device, on what kind of databases. So we need to be sure, right, Hajdi, because it is so important. And the second thing, I mentioned our report. So regarding the jobs, yes, some people will lose jobs, but right now there's a need for experts into the market. So people are needed in the SMEs and the bigger companies, the experts. Not only prompting, that's not only it. The experts are needed, and the expertise is very valuable. Thank you, Marko.
Good, thanks. Do we have still some more minutes? 1 minute. 1 minute. Is there some question from the audience? Please. Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Mobina. I come from Bosnia and Herzegovina. Thank you so much for this panel. I personally had a dilemma in my head whether I go to presidential one or this one, but I made the right choice. So my background is in electrical and electronics engineering, but I have an aspirations for politics indeed. So my question would be for Mrs. Aida and Mr. Harry. So a couple days ago, we were in Kranjska Gora with young people from Bosnia, and we were talking about including AI and transparency in the government. So what do you think maybe when it comes to including AI in public sector, especially for the human resources departments, when it comes to employment, for example, for choosing the best candidates for the job? And maybe, Mrs. Aida, would you have in mind also to include universities to have their proposal as graduation projects or master projects, maybe related to this topic? And Mr. Harry, would you as MP support this idea actually to include AI in human resources department and also for public tenders, as we have in Bosnia a lot of corruption there, and yeah, we kind of hold doctor's degree on that. Thank you.
Well, definitely public tenders. Maybe you are familiar that we have a memorandum of understanding with Bosnian government, and we are trying also to approach with some of our measures and with some of our activities and try to show the path. I think the biggest problem now, we were talking about trustworthy of AI, but in the case of Bosnia and Herzegovina, we have the problem of trust in government and trust in politics, and it's not just in Bosnia, probably in many other countries we can talk about this also, you know. So we have to bring this back, you know, the trust, and the only way we can bring it is with transparency. So how to include the transparency within different processes, a decision support, you know, at the different levels in a public administration. This is of utmost importance, you know. So I think with the HR and this, we have to bring the tools that can help us, but still we have to be careful. You know, I'm sure that you are familiar with the case of in the Netherlands where they used in social transfers AI, which was really biased and so on. So this could bring a huge problem on the other side. So we have to be careful in that sense, but definitely, you know, bring and do anything possible, you know, to bring this transparency, you know, to open this. And when I see that someone from government, from ministry, is not keen on doing stuff like this, I always think, what's the background? Why you don't want to be transparent? Why you don't want to show? Because the data shows everything, you know, and if we decide on the data, so this is the best decision-making possible, you know. So this is the only way I think we could progress anywhere, and especially also in Bosnia. And sincerely, I thought that digital transformation, digitalization, AI, technology could be the common ground for the Bosnia and Herzegovina. You know, to think everyone, not one side, other side, you know, the Republic Srpska Federation and so on, but to say, okay, this is something that we can agree on, you know. If there are many things we cannot, but this is something that we could agree on and say, okay, this is something that we need for the future of this country, you know. But still, I cannot see this going on. Hopefully, we could help in some way.
Well, I mean, Aida already mentioned bias, so we have to be careful, especially with HR decisions. Minorities, women, whatever. So it's an important factor. I don't want to add more to that. Let me focus on another thing. I think it's a misplaced fallacy if we feel that technology can solve the problems on its own. Nobody has a monopoly, first of all, of corruption. Corruption is everywhere. Let me give you an example. The tax administration is using AI. I led about 10 years ago the transformation of the tax administration with digital tools, with change of the laws of how the audits are being done, et cetera, and that has created a lot of trust in the Greek tax administration now. So when you use AI now by the tax administration, the trust that's already there in the institution helps. So AI can help you pinpoint corporations or RFPs or whatever for audit, but at the end of the day, it will not automatically impose the fines. This cannot happen. So some auditor, some prosecutor, someone will then act upon that, and if they're corrupt and they just demand ransom for closing the investigation, then we're back to square one. So effectively, really, the strong institutions is the solution to those problems. Now, AI can help because those institutions can be overwhelmed. There are thousands upon thousands of corporations and thousands upon thousands of transactions or awards of contracts, et cetera, et cetera. So the tools can help those institutions be more efficient and be more successful, but ultimately it's the institutions, their memory, their belief in their purpose and their competence that really drives this kind of trust. And I think that's where all of us in Europe in general, in Central and Eastern Europe, in the Balkans, in the Mediterranean, we should focus on, and of course use AI as a tool in that process.
Good. Seems like we need to finish, right? So yeah, I'm getting the signals.
Even the president's
There was not much to say there, right? War 1, War 2, War 3, right? And that's it, right? Okay, thanks to all the speakers. I think it was a good discussion, diverse as well. In a year, I guess, discussion will be interesting, new, fresh, right? And thanks for the audience also. Yeah, come.